はい。ごめんね。今ちょっと忙しいから。はい。じゃあね。終わったら連絡する。Number ones. Oh, sorry, no, I was just talking to Miyamoto Musashi. You know, fans. Welcome back to my channel. This is the Metatron speaking. So, you're interested in samurai armor, are you? Well, today I'm going to show you some really amazing pieces of kit from Edo Jidai in Japan. Now, please keep in mind that these helmets that we're going to see belong to the 17th, 18th and 19th century. Now, the reason for that, I've already mentioned this a little bit yesterday, so if you are subscribers who watch my content daily, I will be repeating myself a little bit now, but I do need to specify this for those of you who are new to this concept. In Japan, when you look at the Edo Jidai armor, you need to keep in mind that this is a sort of armor that is more of an artistic representation. These sets of armor are fully functional, but the helmets tend to be a way to show off your social status, how successful you are in life, how wealthy you are, how important you are, and how amazing the artist is. So these were not sort of helmets that would be produced for actual combat. We are in a period of peace. So you wouldn't be seeing these helmets on the battlefield, although I gotta tell you, that would be amazing. So these very peculiar and special helmets are called Kawari Kabuto, which means strange or weird helmets. So these are my favorite that I would like to share with you, and then at the end we'll talk a little bit about these and I will tell you my favorite three helmets. Let's get to it. Okay then, well I hope that you enjoyed this show of helmets. I find them to be very beautiful, and the reason why I'm not commenting them and instead I decided to put the music is because I wanted to give it a more of a special atmosphere, you know, for us to sort of to feel the immersion of the era they came from. So these helmets are spectacular. Now samurai armor tends to be it's one of my favorite kinds of armor, and there are loads of different styles. Now, of course, a similar thing could be said about European armor. Lots of different styles, lots of different places. But what I find interesting about samurai armor is that regardless of the fact that we are talking about Japanese armor only, because samurai are specific to Japan, the artistic creativity of these masters, of these smiths, is incredible, and the huge variety. And of course we do find similar things in Europe as well, in very intricate and elaborate ways of decorating armor. And of course when we reach 16th century armor, then we will find, you know, these very amazing suits of armor that I myself really like, although I have to say my favorite style of armor still remains the northern Italian 15th century full plate armor. But these Japanese helmets are incredible. Some of these I would give everything. So the Japanese always had, particularly the samurai caste, always had this idea of wanting to impress the people that they were dealing with, whether it be the foe, and so you needed to be fearsome and demonic looking so that he would be afraid of you, or whether it be your ally, so that people would respect you, they would fear you as well, in a sense, because we do have to consider the Japanese society was quite difficult and quite intricate, and perhaps one day I will dedicate a video for understanding feudal Japanese society thoroughly, which is not an easy topic to tackle. But you also wanted to impress your superiors, particularly if you were a samurai who, was trying to raise the ladder, or the social ladder, if you will, and you wanted, therefore, your superiors, like the daimyo, to notice you on the battlefield. So they always had these very intricate colors, this way to decorate the armor so that you would stand out. The horns, for example, were used in battle, and other forms of maedate, so the actual decoration at the front of the helmet. All these things will be noticeable, and of course you had the banners at the back. So loads of things already, even during times of war, were used. But when we move to times of peace, then this can be fully and thoroughly expressed, because you don't need these helmets to be functional anymore. So again, we shouldn't consider these to be costumes, although they are in a way, meaning that you don't actually use, although these armors of the 18th century are still function very well as far as the material or the way they are built, they would function. The thing is that all these decorations on the helmets, of course, will make them rather clumsy to wear, I would imagine. But that didn't matter, because the way you need to imagine these is not on the battlefields, as I said, but you should imagine these samurai during festivities, for example, or celebrations, or while you were celebrating the kami, the spirits of nature, and you should imagine them just riding their horses with their servants in the middle of the town with all the other commoners and other samurai and other Japanese actually looking at your armor, and you wanted yourself to stand out, or you wanted people to, look at you in awe, amazed by how successful you were in life. Okay, so moving to my best or my favorite helmets, I really liked the the butterfly helmet. This one, it's a peach-shaped helmet with a butterfly decoration on top. I found it very original, and I have to say that perhaps one of the reasons why I like it is because it makes me think of the Dark Souls series. For those of you who play the game, you know what I'm talking about. So now, after playing that game, I have to say that this image of how cool a butterfly can actually be, and how badass a butterfly can actually be, that now when I saw this, it sort of changed my perception of it from an artistic point of view again, because even in some of these video games, yes, they are games, but you still have some amazing artists in these games, and some of the things that they come up with, some of the shapes and even the monsters or the heroes, or the sort of equipment and kit that these heroes wear are absolutely astonishing. Like, some of these artists are literally amazing, and the idea, and now you couple it with a ancient a samurai warrior, a real samurai wearing this, it's fantastic. So this is why I like the butterfly one. The dragonfly one is another one that I particularly like. Why do I like this? Not because of its aesthetics, but because it looks out of this world. In Japanese you would say kono yo no mono janai. So it's not a thing of this world. It's an expression that they use, kono yo no mono janai. And it does give that feeling, and I think that that was what's intended. So it doesn't only have a naturalistic feel, which of course I like, because I like imagining this samurai wearing this, and you'll meet him in the middle of a forest. It looks like something that came out of a Miyazaki Hayao film or animation film. You know, the sort of Mononoke Hime, kind of very mystical and beastly creatures coming out from the forest, and then you meet a samurai wearing that. So that's why I like this one, because it gives me an outworldly feeling. And last but not least, I like horns. I like horns on samurai armor, but I prefer the moon crescent or the full moon or the sun. These sort of round shapes on top of the helmet are something that I really, really appreciate. Now, there were some really amazing helmets, but now, so for example, this helmet here, this is scary, this is amazing as a work of art, but it's not a helmet I'd like to wear. You know what I'm saying, okay? It's amazing. Like, when I looked at it, I'm like, whoa, look at that. That is definitely one of those helmets that I would immediately show to someone who's like, so, any idea of a strange samurai helmet? There you go, mate. But if I'm thinking something really cool, something I would like to wear, then I'd say that this one here is the one that pretty much kills it. It does it for me. It's the frosting on the cake. It gives me an idea, an aura of power, majesty. It feels like a spirit is inhabiting this sort of armor, if you know the point I'm trying to draw. And I find it aesthetically pleasing. I find it very beautiful. It gives me the idea of something coming from Tenguk, something coming from above, warrior coming from above to protect. It's very cool. So that's but dark on the other side, because samurai have a very dark feel to them. When you look at a knight in shining armor, which I love, okay, I love the figure of the knight in shining armor, but it gives the idea of a saint. It gives the idea, they weren't, of course, but it gives the idea of a saint, all this shiny look, a very clean, of course, when they went to battle, the armor would have been a mess, blood everywhere, but then the servants would clean it up. So the knight, and that's why in Italy, for example, the bianca armatura, the white armor, was popular. Why was it called white? Because they weren't wearing the surcoats that would be typical of the 14th century. But in the 15th century in Italy, this one becomes the fashion. You want people to see how shiny your metal was. And although that is amazing in itself, it's fantastic when you see like a knight coming on top of his horse and all this shining armor, you're like, wow, look, that's like a paladin of truth. It's like a defender of the weak, and this all great chivalric concept that comes with it, which again, of course, it wasn't always the case. Well, probably was, most of the times wasn't the case, but it still gives that aura of majesty from that point of view. But the samurai, they always chose this darker side, this more like, I want to scare you, I want to look like a demon, I want to look like you're facing an outworldly monster, and that is going to imbue my enemies with fear, together with my abilities to fight. That will grant me victory, that will grant me a advantage over my enemy. And so imagining these dark, I imagine this grove, perhaps with misty grove, a little bit of fog and haze coming perhaps from the nearby sea, and you see these samurai coming towards you. You can barely see them, and you see all these horns and these dark colors, perhaps, or very bright red colors, and they're coming towards you, and they look like a horde of monsters that you can't possibly stop. So this is also something that I find particularly beautiful, and even perhaps the slight curve in their swords, if they were using a sword. But even if they use a naginata, it's still curved. They have a lot of this idea of curvature. It's typical of at least samurai period Japan, and all of this, it gives it that specific look of outwardly demonic warriors and creatures, that I find particularly pleasing to the eye. Alright then, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please remember thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content from the Metatron. I will soon release more content. Of course, I will see you tomorrow, but I will release more content on the samurai, and I will soon film the continuation of my series on Miyamoto Musashi, and we will be dealing with another of his scrolls. And remember, the Metatron has spread his wings. Goodbye.